They are now, and welcome back to the channel. So on today's episode, it's a Q&A. The channel is coming up on just a year old, the 15th of November to be precise. It'll have been a year live, and wow, what a year it has been. We put out on our social media, Instagram, Facebook, asking for just general questions from you guys, and we said we would answer them in today's video as a sort of thank you to you folks for giving us so much support. Back in November 2020, with the height of lockdown in Ireland, we said, you know what, let's give video production a bit of a go, try and give back a bit to the mini community who have supported me so well over the years. We had a look at YouTube, and it said, a goal out there was 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time, and we said, well, it's probably completely unrealistic, but let's try and get that in a year and see if it, make it our target or whatever. And of course, you guys absolutely just blew that out of the water. I think within the first couple of months, we had hit that target already. So now, just a year later, and we've 3,500 of you, absolutely wonderful people, tuning into our videos. And, the watch hours are absolutely phenomenal. So, thank you so much for your support, for your generosity in giving to our channel funding in the form of our coffee account, and also in the buying of all of our merchandise, which again, when we launched our merchandise, I was hoping for a couple of t-shirts to sell and stuff like this, and all the other brilliant merchandise that Billy has designed and put on our website has flown out the door, and we have been completely blown away. Of course, all of that feeds back into the channel. As you guys know, I have only one interest when it comes to any revenue that's generated on the channel, and I just put it straight back in the form of camera equipment, put it in the form of new videos, new lighting and stuff. A teaser, there's a very exciting video, one of our more fun videos, going to launch in the next couple of weeks, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. Billy's been working so hard on it in the background, so it's really good fun, so that's to look forward to. Anyway, I suppose let's jump in, answer a couple of these questions and see what you guys had to ask. So again, as always guys, I'll do my best to try and pronounce the names as accurately as I can, but you never know whether you can or not. Every now and then a dog might pop in because the hounds are here with us today during filming. Why not include them? I know you guys all love the hounds anyway, so you may see a dog stand up on top of this laptop at some stage for sure. We'll work around them. They're here for the good times. Alright, so first question came in through the Facebook page from Rolf Liden, I think, maybe. Hi Paul, E10 in a classic Mini, what do I think? E10 is a reference to the higher levels of ethanol that is going into petrol now. And Rolf, unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be the future. While yes, it is still possible to buy fuels with lower ethanol contents from specialist suppliers, if we want to buy fuel from the pump at our gas stations or petrol stations, the truth is it is going to be have higher levels of ethanol in it. In my opinion, it has no great effect to the way the engine in a Mini will mechanically work, but I am nervous towards how it reacts with fuel lines. Recently here in Ireland, one of our classic car enthusiasts in the country, who was reasonably well known, lost a beautiful classic car to a fuel line failure, and then of course a subsequent massive fire, and when we look back at it, it does certainly look like it was the higher ethanol content in the fuel that caused that fuel line failure. So what I would say about E10 is I think we should accept that it's coming. I think we should try and embrace the fact that it's coming and get our fuel lines changed. In the Mini, it's so simple. In a standard Mini, there really is only two major pieces of rubber fuel line that was used from the factory. So changing those out is going to be very quick. getting good quality E10 rated fuel line is becoming much easier now. Most of the local suppliers have it, or if you can't get it from a local supplier, it's very much readily available online. So I think rather than grumbling about it and putting it off, we should make the winter project this year to make sure all of our cars are E10 ready and safe and protect our classics for another year. So Ralph, hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let's move on a little bit. 1330RG posted on our Instagram, can we have an update on the cheap rods in the engine, or sorry, in the race engine? Are they okay for the moment, or do you think they're a time bomb for revs sustained over 7,000 RPM? Okay, 1380 or 1330 RG, those rods, to be honest with you, have completed about 40 hours of engine running since I first started testing them. Mechanically, I honestly don't see any problem with them. They haven't stretched. I've measured them when we put that engine back together on the video, and subsequently the motor was stripped for another engine fault that came in. We had a piston problem, and we stripped the motor again. As a result of that, we remeasured those rods, and there was no signs whatsoever of stretch. There was no sign of ovulation in either the little or big end. So they check mustard. My single biggest concern with those cheap rods is that I don't know if the quality control is there across the board. My big worry is that the batch I have may well be fine, but I don't know if any of the other batches out there are being made to the exact same standard. And it is from standards that we get quality, and from quality we get reassurance of a product that we can test, put through the rigors, and then either be happy with it and use it, or be unhappy with it and change it. With these rods, I can tell you that the set I fitted and used have been fine. They've been faultless, other than the problem of the small end being at a bad angle, which, you know, is actually quite a serious problem when it comes to a high performance engine. But physically, as far as a rod failure goes, I've seen nothing to indicate that that would ever be a possibility. But as I said, fortunately, I think quality control might be the issue there. I think it's quality control that is going to make it hard for us to ever be able to advertise them as a product that we can stand behind. So, in the most trying to be politically correct as I possibly can, that's not politically correct, but you know what I mean. That's not in a roundabout way. My own experience of them has been great, but I can't tell you that that's a good reason to go out and buy them, because I can't tell you that the set you buy will be in any way similar to the set I have, because I can't find any quality assurance ratings as part of the production of the rods. So I think it might be a bit chancer's choice. Okay, next on the list is coming from Stephen Dean. Stephen asked the question on Facebook. I have a 998 A plus motor and a 1275 A series. I think the A series is out of an Allegro maybe. Which engine should I put my energy into for Mark III I'm restoring? Oh, that's an interesting question, Stephen. So, I'm not 100% sure on the setup of an Allegro as to whether there's nuances associated with the castings, like the gearbox and the clutch housing for the Allegro. But I'm sure guys watching this video will have some more experience maybe than I have, and they'll put it in the comment section below. But if there is no appreciable differences and it will fit directly into a Mini, which I'm almost certain they do, because I think I built one of these before, but it might be a long time ago now, I would be inclined to say the effort spent on the 1275 will give you more reward. It'll give you a little bit more power, it'll give you definitely more torque and more drivability. However, I am a huge fan of the A plus 998. I really do like it as an engine. It's a really brilliant little power house that for its size, for its capacity, and for how old the design it is, it's an absolutely wonderful little engine. One of the things I think that would help me make that decision, if it was personally me, would be, what did the car originally have? A Mark III, I mean, it could have anything. It could have a 1275 in it, but I imagine 998 is probably going to be the most common engine that will have been in that. So if it had a 998 originally, I would sway towards putting a 998 in it again, because originality is always the key, retaining, you know, the highest value for your car possible if you ever do want to sell it again. With that said, look, the Mini community is wide and varied, and sometimes people will buy a 1275 over a 998, even though if it's not original, because they think it's going to be more of a high performer or give it more power. But from a, if the question was just outright about drivability or how the thing would handle fuel consumption, that sort of thing, the 1275 will obviously outperform the 998 all day long, even though it's an older A series 1275 as opposed to the A plus. It'll still way outperform it. It'll produce more power. It'll be ultimately more reliable. The 1275 has a better way of holding its head gasket down. It just tends to last longer. I mean, it uses the same way, but the 1275 head gasket tends to be more reliable than the 998 for long-term use. So yeah, over that, if it's just purely for performance and reliability, I would pick the 1275. Obviously, given that you're going to rebuild the two of them, but for originality, maybe the 998. Okay, Terry Roberts asks the next question. He asked us this on Facebook, and he says, morning, Paul. I'm putting a BMW K100 head on a 1275. Worth the hassle? I'm looking to build this one myself. Terry, I've done this conversion for a customer, and I would like to say that it is a straightforward conversion, but when I did it 4 years ago now, it absolutely was not. And in fact, that car ended up with me for over 2 years, as I tried to work through all the problems and nuances that I found with that particular type of conversion. Now, with that said, I have been seeing recently more of these conversions happening. So maybe the people producing the kits have better fine-tuned them now, and they maybe are a little bit more of a straightforward swap. Honestly, from my point of view, obviously I consider myself very competent in this type of engineering, and I won't say that it was a struggle, but it certainly took a lot more time and effort to get what I was happy with as a reliable, everyday usable Mini engine with one of those cylinder heads on it. However, the caveat to that is, honestly, the performance is phenomenal. Huge mid-range drivability from those 16 valve heads. They just drive so nicely in the mid-range. They accelerate beautifully and produce loads of torque and loads of go. The only probably one thing that I don't like about them is I don't think, God bless you, one of our poor dogs having a sneeze attack. One of the things I probably don't absolutely love about them is I think they aren't lovely down low. Now, that could be down to the fuel injection system that was fitted to the one I built, and its tunability and its flexibility with tuning the engine down low. I didn't think it performed particularly lovely in traffic, in slow moving situations. But give it an open road and give it a lash, and my God, it was phenomenal. Like, really enjoyable to drive, great power, great responsiveness, and to be honest with you, reasonable fuel economy as well. So they are a good package, and when you get them right, they are phenomenal, but just prepare yourself for a lot of effort. And hopefully it won't be that case. Hopefully you'll have an easy road and it won't be nearly as difficult as the conversion I did was. But I would still prepare myself for a pretty seriously complex project if you do go that way. However, that said, the reward at the end if it's a B-road trasher that you're hoping to really give it socks around the place in, you will be rewarded greatly when you get it right. Okay, moving on down. Another question from Instagram, I think. Let me see. Who have we got here? Oh, the boy with the white smile. I love all your really interesting Instagram names or handles. Can you give a definitive answer on the running in, breaking in procedure of an A-series engine after it has been rebuilt? Share your thoughts and guidance on the methods. Under 3000 RPM for 1000 miles versus, say, something like full throttle from the first start. What's your advice? Why? Thank you. Alright, so the boy with the said white smile. It totally depends on the engine as far as I'm concerned. With a very much all-out high-performance A-series motor like that would be fitted in one of our very fast road engines or a rally race type engine, I have a very specific braking in procedure for those. I use a straight mineral oil. I pre-pressure lubricate the engine, and I've shown that on a couple of videos before, where I put pressurized oil through the whole engine system. I then start the engine and I bring it to what I like to call a rolling boil, about 2,500 RPM. I do that until the temperature reaches around 70 degrees, 75 degrees. I shut the motor down, I let it come back down to sort of room temperature, and I repeat that procedure a second time. After that, I generally bring the engine for rolling road and then let it loose on the track. Obviously, a change of oil between the between the running in and the rolling road, and then another change of oil between the rolling road and letting it loose on the track. That would be how I run in a race motor. I do that very specifically because, well, one, piston wear is not a concern. On a race motor, they do so much sustained high RPM that pistons get changed regularly anyway, so not worried about that. The camshafts are always very high lift with long sustained durations, therefore the nose loading on the cams is massive, and as a result of that I always want to make sure that I break in the cam and the cam followers as best I can. High RPM initially allows to take that nose load down on the camshaft and just give it that chance to be able to just break in there and not pick up metal. Whereas if you tend to idle over a motor like that with those really high lifts and those heavy valve springs, we tend to see metal being imparted between the followers and the cam, and then significant cam wear starts very quickly after that, and we see engine failures. So that would be a kind of a racy motor. I would say high-end fast road motor, and I would also say stuff like maybe, for example, a rally engine, something like that. If we're talking about a street motor, a very standard-ish type street motor, I'd be inclined to say in that scenario I would go with a much more passive braking in. I'd start the motor and check my ignition timing and my fueling to get it running as lean as I possibly could. I would run it up to about 1800 RPM and let the motor come up to temperature. Do that once or twice, change the oil, and then bring it for a few short mixed drives. What do I mean by that? Don't go out on a motorway and hold it at sort of 60 miles an hour. Go the B roads, bring it up and down through the gearbox as much as you possibly can. So as you're coming into tight corners, avoid braking, actually go back down the gearbox. Accelerate out of those corners, go up the gearbox. Don't load it heavy up steep hills or that sort of thing. You want to keep it running on the flat, going up and down through the speeds, coasting back down, accelerating back up. I would personally keep it below sort of 3000 RPM for the first couple of 100 miles, generally speaking. And keep it sort of sub 3000 RPM, but keep it on the boil. Keep it moving all the time, accelerating and coasting. I wouldn't be mad about heavy braking and then accelerating. I've seen a few people trying to run them in that way. That's not a great procedure. Much better to coast down, accelerate on, coast down, accelerate on. You know, coming into a corner, changing down the box, let the engine do the braking and accelerating, not hard, gently. Typically speaking, limit yourself to about half to 3/4 throttle opening. Generally speaking, even half is good. Remember, you're running this motor lean because you want the rings to get a chance to bed into the bore before we start adding fuel in there. So you don't want to put it under any heavy load because you're going to bring detonation in, you're going to bring piston temperatures up, and you could potentially get ringland failure or ring failure. So you've no interest in doing that. So treat the motor with respect and kind of go from there. Okay, just before I go into the next couple of questions, the usual story. Thank you very much everybody who's tuned in, watched the video. I really appreciate your time. I keep this short and sweet. Bang that like button if you're enjoying the content. If you're new to the channel, you're most welcome. Please subscribe. Have a look around at some of our other videos and see if you like them. If you fancy a bit of deadly merch like this, head over to the merch store, shameless plug. And if you're looking for a way to donate to the channel to help us make more content like this, pop over to our coffee account and buy us a coffee there. It's always much appreciated. Alrighty, move on to another question. I'm conscious of the time. How long are we now, Billy? I think we must be about 20 minutes, are we? Yeah, alright, 22 minutes. So I'm going to do another question or two, and then I'm going to leave you lovely folks to your weekend, and I'll see you again on the next one. So, Team Ballylock Classic, a good friend of the channel, and who also has a good YouTube channel with some absolutely brilliant content, much underrated. So anybody who is interested in some interesting Northern Irish content, head over there to Team Ballylock Classic and have a look at his channel. A top class guy and good stuff. I'm going to pop a link in the description below as well for that one, because he is a long time supporter of the channel and is always shouting for us. So thank you, Team Ballylock. Okay, types of suspension cones, he asks me. Best for B-Road Basher. Alrighty, always on everyone's agenda, suspension cones. For me, if I was building a B-Road Basher tomorrow, I would go with the red dot cone from Mini Spares. I would put a really good quality set of dampers in the car and a really good rear anti-roll bar, and I think you would be massively rewarded from the handling. If you like your car to be able to deal with speed ramps and to deal with, you know, a lot of rough roads, then you may not love that red dot cone because it is quite stiff. So in that case, I'd probably say go for a good quality set of OE cones, ideally off maybe one of the mid to late 90s kind of cars. They were kind of at their peak, and if they aren't completely, you know, worn out and collapsed, they're probably the best compromise between the really stiff red dot and then the softer kind of smoother ride and stuff like that that's out there. That would be my personal choice. Night and day. Rear anti-roll bar and good dampers transforms the Mini. The cone is just going to affect your suspension stiffness, so I'd be inclined to say if a harsh ride is something that you want to try and avoid, then it might well be worth moving away from that. Okay, another one that came in there from our Instagram, off our story, we put up ask us questions on the story, came from Granby Motorsport. Anybody who is regular on my channel and knows me knows that I'm actually quite heavily involved in Granby Motorsport. It's a small Irish team run by the infamous Neil Kavanagh. Any news, he says, on the jig? How is it coming along? And when will it be ready to do my Mark 1? You're in the queue, dude, I promise, I swear to God. The jig, really good question about the jig. Alright, so, and I'd like to answer it because it also answers another question that came in, which was, any news on Project Gretel? Anything coming up soon on that? And that came in from Ballylock Classic again. So, any news on Project Gretel? The news on Project Gretel and the news on the jig are the same. when we started Project Gretel, there was a reasonably major shift in the UK climate between the Brexit. I mean, you're going to have a laugh here because we're getting a visit from a dog. Come on up then, Eric. We're just finished now anyway, so we'll put that laptop away. So the story is, because of Brexit and because of the climate there, we have been really struggling here in Ireland to obtain panels and bits from the UK. Now, that's not to say that they aren't gettable. They absolutely are. But unfortunately, as a result of that, it has really slowed things down. We had a window where we could have got a lot done with Gretel, and that window has unfortunately closed. So what is happening now is that we are waiting for another window before we can kick Gretel off again and be able to kind of get some things happening. So what we're hoping is, we have a few projects to go through in the workshop at the moment, which I really just want to get done and get dusted. Next year, I plan on putting huge emphasis on Gretel. So as I get through the backlog, I've actually closed the books for the workshop this year. I'm not taking on any more jobs. And next year's plan is to take on a little bit less customer work and to focus a bit more on Project Gretel and bring more of that content to the channel. So thank you very much, Mr. Granby Motorsport, for asking me how the jig is coming on, and also Ballylock Classic for asking about Gretel. It's a lovely caveat to close up this video. Gretel will be much bigger next year. We're going to do a lot on that project. You can expect to see a lot more about it. We also have a really exciting car build that I know I've mentioned a few times before on the channel, but that is coming and it is going to be really cool. So that's going to get a go in the jig as well. And also, Granby Motorsports Mark 1 is going to also make an appearance at some stage, hopefully next year, and we're going to see that in the workshop getting assessed and starting that project along the way. So stay tuned, lads. Next year is going to be a really exciting year. There's going to be lots to see on it. Let's finish out this year, get a few more of the jobs done in the shop. The cylinder head is back from the machine shop, so we'll be doing a video on that shortly, and that'll finish up our series on cylinder heads. We've a little video to finish up that gearbox build series we did, which is putting the diff back into the gearbox and finishing up that housing. And then who knows what else will appear on the channel. I know Billy's working on something really special as well. So look forward to a busy couple of months coming up here on the channel with loads of cool content. Also, don't forget our lives at the end of each month. The end of this month is going to be a really exciting live. We have Phil from Turbo Phil from turbomini.com. Turbo Phil is a long-time friend, has been working on these Turbo Minis for years and years and years. So I'm really excited to have him on our live and to enjoy it. Leaves me with nothing more to say, lads, but see you guys on the next one. P.S. I didn't get to answer all your questions. In fact, I didn't even get through half of them. If you stuck it out and watched the video this far, thank you so much. You're a real supporter of the channel. You'll be rewarded with another Q&A coming in the next couple of weeks where I finish answering the rest of the questions. See you again.